What up? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And look at you. You done stumbled upon little OTB Saints, where we bring you all the latest black and gold coverage.
Who are the Saints going to draft? Who's going to be their quarterback? What does the salary cap look like? All that information and more.
Hope you enjoy it. Like, subscribe. Yesterday, big free agent news. Finally, a bit of a splash as the New Orleans Saints sign former NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year Chase Young to a one-year, $13 million deal. He's our version of Minnesota's Marcus Davenport, but hopefully better. I mean, a bit more proven, to be fair.
Yeah.
Though Davenport did have a 9-sack season. He's never had that, but he had a great rookie year. He had a pretty good year last year. Remember, back in his first season with the Commanders, he had 7.5 sacks. They had that really good defensive line where they made the playoffs. Was that the Heineke-Brady year where in Brady's Super Bowl run, they actually gave them a better game than did anybody else?
He had 10 sacks a year ago.
Oh, I think he got to 10 last year?
He got to double digit between the two teams. Yeah.
Did he?
Yes.
I thought he had 5 and then 2.5.
If you count the playoffs. I think he had 10.
Okay. I did not know that. But I knew he had one. I thought he had 5, 2.5, and then 1 in the Super Bowl. I might have missed one earlier in the the other rounds.
To your point, I'll take him over Marcus Davenport.
I will take him over Marcus Davenport. But also, it is funny because, like Marcus Davenport, it's a 1 year. Like he got 1 year, $13 million in Minnesota last year.
Yeah.
So and now Chase Young getting 1 year, $13 million here. But look, this is a guy again, 7.5 sacks his first season, Defensive Rookie of the Year. Then dealt with some major injury problems, which cost him. Now, and surprisingly, I mean, it causes Washington not to pick up his 5th-year option. They end up trading him to San Fran for a 3rd-round pick. San Francisco then choosing to not really pursue him either. These could all be construed as red flags, I would say. And these roads meant that now he arrived at the Saints, but both parties being a bit desperate, I would say, for one another. Or like the Saints really need pass rush, and Chase Young needs somebody who was going to give him a pretty nice chunk of change for 1 year to prove himself and then get a big deal. If I wanted to be very optimistic about it, not even getting into the numbers, which we can, Jake, I would say this. He suffered a major knee injury, right? Like, I think it was like patellar tendon, ligaments, like basically almost like a 1.5 year type of knee injury. So to come back from that and then put up the numbers he did last season, I'm like, okay, that's a guy who could be reascending a bit. Yeah. What was your initial reaction when you saw the Saints sign Chase Young?
I thought it was the first big move that they've made, obviously, this offseason, and this was a big edge rusher free agency year. Like, you look at some of the contracts that were passed out to Leonard Williams, Danielle Hunter.
What did Danielle Hunter get? I missed that.
Gosh, Danielle Hunter ended up getting 2 years, $49 million.
Shoo, let's go.
2 years, $49 million, and $48 guaranteed at signing. Grenard from Houston ended up getting 4 years, $76 million. Leonard Floyd got 2 years, $20 million. Autry got 2 years, $20 million. So this was a year in which these guys were going to get paid, and you start to look around at some of the money. Like Armstead got released from San Francisco, and he signs with Jacksonville, 3 years, $51 million. So there's a lot of money being spent on edge rusher. We know how important of a position it is, and so for you to get a Chase Young at $13 million, it's a prove-it year for him. It's a position of need for you. Mm-hmm. You get a guy that's 24 years old. He's still uber talented.
Only 24?
Yeah, 24 years old. He's still got the talent. Now, he is – and also, like, he's not going to be counted on the only guy to get after the quarterback. You still got Granderson. You still got Cam Jordan. And we realize Cam Jordan is a different player now. He's still a player that can certainly help you. And you talk about a mentor for Chase Young. Like, Cam Jordan feels like the perfect kind of mentor. So you like the move. The cost for it, considering what other edge rushers are going for, is not that high. And now you have the ability, in my opinion, to look elsewhere at 14, unless somebody you fall in love with a guy and he happens to fall to you, but you don't have to be as aggressive in the draft for that position. Maybe it's another position, but you don't have to move up to take maybe a Dallas Turner.
Yeah, even though I would still say if Dallas Turner somehow fell to you, like that would, that would still probably
because
be
this
the
is
pick.
A 1 year deal. But I'm saying you don't move from 14 to 8 and overpay to get up because you're like, man, we got to have some help. He helps you get after the quarterback. And now at 14, if you want to move up, it can be for another position, or if somebody falls to you, then you can select them.
No, you feel a need. And look, between him, Jordan, Granderson, I mean, I'll still allow room for Isaiah Foskey to get better, if nothing else, right? I mean, there's nowhere to go but up. I don't know what to make of Peyton Turner, but again, that's kind of a nowhere to go but up type of situation as well. But Tano Passanio's been pretty productive his entire time here. Like, yeah, you should be able to get production out of that group. I'm not going to say it's one of the best groups in the entire league, but that's
three
that's
first
solid.
rounders and a second rounder.
Yeah. That's solid. It should be solid at least, right?
And what Chase Young does is he rushes the passer. Like, you look at his Pro Football Focus grades.
Yeah.
Pass rush 76. Run defense, 60.
So is he? Here's a question: is he the best pass rusher? Right, like signed to the Saints, is he immediately your best pass rusher? Because the numbers would seem to support that.
I think you could certainly make that argument. Now, he's certainly not the best all-around defensive end edge rusher that you have, because the other guys are better against the run, and they're better against the run than I think you are, overall as a player, because they can get after the quarterback better than you can stop the run. So probably better overall players, but this is why he was brought in. He was brought in to rush the passer. He's not going to be a 3-down defensive end. He's going to come in certain situations, and he's going to be the guy that you count on to create that pressure. Yeah,
and it was a weird year for him last year. He was dominating early on. 5 sacks in 7 games. In those 7, and before he got traded, right? In those first 7 games with Washington, he was generating pressures on 17% of his pass rushes. That was 5th highest in the NFL at that time. The Saints were the 5th lowest pressure team last year. I mentioned maybe being the best pass rusher. Even fact, now so he goes 5 sacks, 7 games. He goes 2.5 of the final 9 games of the Niners. Still had good pressure numbers. Then he gets a sack in the Super Bowl, a couple more in the playoffs as well, as Jake was alluding to. But 67 pressures for Young last year. That's 17th in the league. And when you look at what the Saints did, Granderson had 58. Cam Jordan had 45. So you're talking about significantly more than the best guys that you had. In fact, that 67 is only 3 less than a guy like Bradley Chubb. So, it feels like you got a young cat who's motivated, has a lot to play for. Although he did take kind of an offensive bent yesterday, as he was multiple times asked, do you have something to prove? And here's what he had to say.
Really not excited to prove anything to anybody. I'm just going to go out there and be the best Chase Young I can be.
So kind of not, kind of actively fighting against this idea that it's a prove it deal. But I mean, that's exactly what it is, Chase. And don't worry, whatever you got to do, man, to be good, go get double-digit sacks, and you'll get paid $100 million, right? Or something around those lines.
And if you're getting $13 million to prove it, like a normal prove it deal would be closer to league minimum, or it'd be $5 million. Like $13 million still shows that you have something left that is intriguing to NFL teams. So it's not a completely like if you fail, you're going to be out of the league deal.
No.
It's a, hey, we think that in the right situation, you can turn this $13 million into $70 million.
Yeah, let's be clear. Again, 9 sacks is great. 9 sacks keeps you in the league for a very long time. To Jake's point, this is a prove that you can be one of the elite guys that will get, like we said, closer to $100 million. But it's not like, yes, he is, to be really, really clear about this, despite the 5th-year option not being picked up, despite San Fran not pursuing him after him being there with them last year, this is not someone who is like on the edge of leaving the league or anything like that. You mentioned kind of that mentorship of Cam Jordan. Chase Young talked about that yesterday, calling him a Hall of Famer. He also mentioned the leadership of guys like Tyrann Mathieu, Demario Davis, which we all know those are 2 of the best in the entire league in that regard. And how about it, boys? I mean, we might as well start liking Ryan Day, because the New Orleans Saints are basically Ohio State of the South. You got Pete Werner, you got Lattimore, you got Olave, and you got Chase Young. We have all the great players of the Ryan Day era.
You do. And again, like those players like we talk about when we talked about those other players like from years past, like they're coming from a big program, kind of ready to go, and Chase Young's well into his career, so that he's ready to go. But I'll be curious to see how they use him because, like, when you look at his splits as far as pass rush snaps, 480, run defense snaps, 247. So, like, he is somebody that is even like in San Francisco and in Washington, he's been on the field more for passing downs.
Yeah.
Like, I bet that number goes even higher for rush attempts compared to run defense.
You think they make him even a more specialized pass
I
rusher?
mean, I kind of would. And so, like, and I'm not saying he never plays on second down. That's not what I'm saying. But you paid Granderson already. He got a deal last year.
Yep.
You know Cam Jordan's going to be involved as well.
Yeah, how much is Granderson
I would tell him, I would be like, hey, here's what we're going to do with you. We want you to play whatever that set number of plays is per game, and we want you to come off the edge like you've never done before. Like, that is what we're counting on you to do. Sure, you'll be in there on second downs, but when we put you in, it is to get after the quarterback. And I wonder how much specializing in that, not worrying about run fits as much, can help his game.
I mean, it would, again, his pressure rate, to your point, would seem to point to someone who would thrive in a role like that. Somebody said, don't forget about Brian Brzee. Well, to be fair, we were only mentioning the edge guys, but Brzee does come into play because as who pointed this out in the chat, this is a good call. Adam Fields. Also, your main competition in the division has pretty immobile quarterbacks. True. And then if you got a guy like Brzee getting pressure up the middle, well, that just helps the edge rushers be that much more effective and vice versa. So, okay, yeah, I like what DA and company are building on the defensive side of the ball. And Chase Young, if like even just 9 sacks, even if it was just be like 9 sacks or something, like that is very much worth it in my opinion, and that makes that group significantly better. This was about as good of a single year rental as you could have found in this market. And I think if you're Saints fan, you should be excited, man. Again, it's not a guarantee. If he gets injured, like anytime you're on one of these proven deals, if an injury happens, it's a huge bummer. It's in fact what happened with Marcus Davenport last year with Minnesota. Now, I think Davenport's history has been defined by injuries, whereas Chase Young just had the one, right? I don't think that's fair to say to him. But yeah, certainly if he stays healthy, man, this looks like a bit of a home run for a front office that desperately needed a positive news piece. Wow, just amazing black and gold takes right there, Jake.
I don't think I've ever heard any takes that are better than the two guys that just gave you that take.
And you can keep getting them by going ahead and liking, subscribing, ringing the bell to get notifications when we post. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next OTB Saints.